In the news headline, President Bola Tinubu charges United Nations to be practical in supporting Nigeria against terrorism and poverty alleviation. NLC declares one strike over subsidy removal. Jigawa State Governor Malam Umar Namadi vows to create 150 million years in 4 years. From the international scene, Kremlin denies that Russia is causing hunger in Africa. Hello, listeners. Today is Friday, 1st September 2023. I am Salma Adam Iko with the news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has charged the United Nations to be more practical in supporting Nigeria in the fight against terrorism in view of the rippling effect on global peace, displacement of people, and present poverty. He gave the charge in an audience with the United Secretary General of the United Nations Office on Counter-Terrorism, Vladimir Voronkov, at the State House in Abuja. The president noted that terrorism had consistently reversed the gains on development and increased instability in families and communities, but that United Nations cooperation is dealing with it and always been inconsistent and whimsical in the developing world context. He said United Nations Charter had no charity must undergird future partnership. In his remarks, Minister of Foreign Affairs Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tugga said he had highlighted some of the conditions that promote insurgency like poverty and injustice with the United Nations team, while noting the Nigerian government response. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has today declared his unwavering support for a partnership between the Federal Ministry of Health National Eye Health Program and the Peak Vision Foundation to provide more than 5 million pairs of eyeglasses to Nigerians with sight impairment. The special advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngalale, in a statement said earlier today, President Tinubu declared the federal government support during a courtesy visit by the founder and CEO of Peak Vision Foundation and co-founder of the Vision Catalyst Fund, Professor Andrew Basauras. Ngalale noted that as the president made a pledge on behalf of the federal government, he recalled his first intervention in eye health, highlighting the pressing need for improved eye health services in Nigeria. President Tinubu expressed concern about more than 24 million Nigerians grappling with varying degrees of vision impairments. The scramble for rice by suppliers recruited by the federal and state government is partly responsible for the spike in the prices of commodity. Multiple sources have told Daily Trust. Traders in market in some states told Daily Trust that requests by contractors had led to an increase in demand without corresponding supply from millers. They called that the National Economic Council (NEC) had in August, federal government approved 5 billion naira grants to be given to each of the 36 states of the federation for the procurement of grains, as well as 5 strokes of rice to each state as palliatives to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Most of the states had later acknowledged that they got the supplies, with some of them saying they have started using part of the 5 billion naira given to them to procure more grains, including rice, for onward distribution toward people. A contractor who spoke to one of correspondent said he had LPO from one of the states in north to supply rice, but was yet to meet up. Abdullahi Ali, a family man in Kano, said he was not happy with the recent development. A restorer in Wuse, Abuja, Janet Yusuf, said the cost of a plate of rice has increased from 1,200 naira to 1,700 naira. A credible sources from federal government agencies told newsmen that the whole idea of the palliative was to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy, hunger, and poor purchasing power of the people. The Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) had declared a two-day warning strike over the effect of petrol subsidy removal on Nigerians. The strike is to commence on Tuesday, September 5th, according to a communique issued at the end of the National Executive Council meeting of the Congress. President Bola Tinubu had declared an end on subsidy within his first hour in office, tripling the price of petrol from 197 naira per litre to 617 naira per litre. NLC had kicked against subsidy removal and staged a nationwide protest to call on government not to plunge the masses into hardship. He had subsequently hosted Labour leaders at the presidential villa in Abuja. In the communique signed by Comrade Joe Ajaero, President of the Congress, and Emmanuel Ugboja, its secretary, the union said it raised the decision over the failure of the Tinubu government to enter into dialogue within the organized labor on efforts to cushion the effects of the removal of subsidy. Jigawa State Governor Umar Namadi has promised to create 150 million years in the state in the next 4 years through the various economic empowerment programs of his administration. Namadi said one of the cardinal policies of his administration is human development, adding that the groundbreaking initiative was aimed at uplifting the lives of people of the state. He spoke at the event to flag off the disbursement of grants to 1,000 Women for Self-Reliance, organized by Jigawa State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development in collaboration with the Jigawa State Youth Empowerment and Employment Agency. He said to lay the foundation for his ambitious initiative, the Jigawa State Youth Empowerment and Employment Agency will conduct a comprehensive survey. According to him, the insight gained from survey will serve as a blueprint for the ongoing empowerment effort that the government is committed to advancing. Namadi concluded with a call to action urging beneficiaries to use the funds judiciously and envisioning an event brighter future. In her speech, the Commissioner of Women Affairs and Social Development, Hajia Hadiza Abdul Wahab, said the program is part of the Governor Namadi's 12-point agenda aimed at improving the lives of Jigawa State citizens. The news is coming to you from Studio of Sawaba Radio. More of the news after the short break. Please do stay.
This is News on the Hour, Sawaba Radio FM. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. This is Sawaba News at 7, coming to you from the studio of Sawaba Radio 104.9 Hadija, and also from the news department. Women in Jigawa State have expressed their concerns over the unavailability of family planning services at the health facilities across the state. They raised the concern at the budget review for family planning organized by the Jigawa Maternal and Accountability Forum, supported by Women's Integrated Services for Health, held at the Manpower Development Institute Tuesday. Malama Hawa, one of the participants, stated that due to the higher level of family planning awareness campaign, the demand had increased, resulting in shortages of the commodity across the state. She explained that most women are resorting to private patent medical vendors for the services, thereby increasing the chances of maternal mortality in the state. Halima, another participant, said women in Jigawa State were no longer going to hospitals for family planning due to its scarcity. She called on the state government to consider yearly increases in family planning allocation and releases to cater for the needs of 13% of women of productive health who require the service. Earlier, while representing the budget analysis, a resource person, Isa Mustafa, said the scarcity of the commodity was associated with inadequate budgetary provision and releases for many years. Gully erosion is threatening to sack Kore community in Garki local government area of Jigawa State. Malam Musa, a resident, told newsmen that for over 40 years, the town has been under a threat of being destroyed by landslides due to erosion. According to him, the gully is widening during the rainy season and has claimed several farmlands in the community. Musa urged government at all levels to, as a matter of urgency, save the residents from losing their houses and farmland. Chairman Senate Committee on Farmer, Senator Babangida Hussaini, earlier whilst inspecting the area, said the government had already set up machinery to resolve the problem. He said the contract had been awarded and the contractor mobilized to the site. Nigerian Air Force has said its airstrikes knocked out non-terrorist camps in Borno and active illegal oil refining site in Rivers State. The Director of Public Relations and Information, Air Commodore Edward Gabquet, disclosed this in a statement made available to journalists in Abuja. Gabquet said that various air interaction missions against terrorists, militants, and oil thieves had continued to deny them freedom to cause mayhem and havoc against innocent civilians, the environment, and the economy. He said the air components of Operation Haɗin Kai executed airstrikes near Arena Woji today, following confirmation that terrorists and their injured cohort had continued to use the location situated in southern Tumbus near Lake Chad as a hideout. According to him, credible intelligence had further revealed that the location remained active with some other terrorists using the area to store their weapons and other logistics. A new report that if nothing is done to redress Africa's huge debt burden, the consequences will be felt far outside the continent. The One Campaign says African countries are paying 500% more for loans than they need, to costing them more than $50 billion over the next few years. The report says the problem will fuel increased mass migration, reduce action on climate change, and will fragment the global economy. It calls for a huge and urgent expansion of loans to Africa from lenders such as the International Monetary Fund and World Bank. Citing Nigeria as an example, the report says it depends more than twice as much on debt repayment as it does on healthcare and education combined. The One Campaign works to end extreme poverty and preventable diseases. Russia remains a reliable supplier of grain in spite of obstacles created by Western countries, according to Kremlin. It also said that food shortages in Africa had nothing to do with Moscow. In July, Russia quit a year-old agreement that had allowed Ukraine, one of the world's biggest exporters, to ship grain from its Black Sea port in spite of Russia's invasion and military control of Ukrainian waters. When asked in a briefing about reported accusations by the head of Ukraine's Security Council that Moscow was causing hunger in Africa, where many countries depend on imported grain, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, while citing the agreement, Russia claimed that Western sanctions were impeding its own food and fertilizer export in violation of a separate agreement. Since then, Russian President Vladimir Putin has promised to send up to 50,000 metric tons of grain to each of 6 African countries for free, a sum unlikely to make a significant dent in the continent's food shortages. The African Union has suspended Gabon's participation in all of its activities following Wednesday's military takeover, which strongly condemned. The decision followed a meeting on Thursday of the bloc's Peace and Security Council. Earlier, the Gabonese junta said it will pass in what it's calling transitional institutions after removal of President Ali Bongo. The soldiers gave no details on how long this would remain in place, nor on how or whether power might be handed back to a civilian government. The main opposition alliance had urged the junta to discuss the best way forward. It added that Gabonese should be grateful that they had dethroned the Bongo dynasty, but called on the military to act responsibly. And we wrap up the news with this, a recap of the major stories. From the news, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu charges United Nations to be practical in supporting Nigeria against terrorism and poverty alleviation. NLC declares warning strike over subsidy removal. Jigawa State Governor Namadi vows to create 150 million years in 4 years. Kremlin denies that Russia is causing hunger in Africa. On behalf of the news department and the news editor Lukman Ahiru, I am Salma Adam Iko. Thank you for listening.